starts right now, so fling wide, you heavenly gates, and prepare the way of the risen Lord. The Apostle John was on the island of Patmos. He was imprisoned for the testimony of Jesus Christ. And he heard a sound behind him. He turned around and he said, I looked, and there was a door standing open in heaven. And I heard a voice. It was a voice that was like the sound of a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here. I will show you the things which must take place. And that's what we need, my friends. We need a heavenly perspective of the things that are going on in the world around us. The things that the Word of God foretold us would come to pass. Those things which must take place. Those things which are taking place even now as I speak. That is what this show is all about. Discussing the issues of the day and discerning the times from a biblical perspective and worldview. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Andy White here, and thanks for tuning in for today's edition of Open Up the Doors. What you are about to hear is the fusion of heart, mind, and soul. Hey, please do me a favor if you are tuned in, if you are listening, please visit me at the Open Up the Doors Facebook page. I started that about a month or two ago, and I would just love for you to come visit over there and leave me your thoughts, leave me your comments. You can find the Open Up the Doors Facebook page at www.facebook.com/faithfm91.7. And please like the page if you would like to correspond with me privately, because of something I share on the show, or a question you might have, or anything you might have on your heart that you would like to discuss. You can email me at ajwhite777@icloud.com. That's ajwhite777@icloud.com. And once again, I just thank you for all tuning in to Open Up the Doors. Well, there is a lot. I'm almost thinking that I probably this broadcast might have to take 2 weeks, because I've got so much that's bubbling up inside of me, so much I've been looking into. But I'm going to start with this. There's a lot in the news concerning ISIS once again. You wouldn't know it you wouldn't know it with the American newspapers and the media, because they're all kind of taken up with the three-ring circus of the election, because that's what it's really become in a lot of ways. But I'm not going to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in the world around us, because we live in exciting times. This is the greatest time to be alive as a Christian, to see what's going on prophetically in the world. It's awesome to see the things that the Bible foretold, and all the pieces are coming together. But the other night was Saturday night. I had a dream, and I'm not going to go into all the details of everything in the dream, but I had a dream the Saturday night about I was at my mother's house. I don't even know why I was at my mother's house. I was there, and me and my wife, we have our own home, but in my dream I was at my mother's house, and there was a knock at the door, and I opened up the door, and there were these two men standing there. One's tall and thin, and the other one's a little bit shorter, kind of pudgy looking, and they're wearing clerical garb. They almost look like, they were like out of the Greek Orthodox Church. They were all like black robes, and like those Eastern Orthodox kind of garb. But they were black robes, and then it dawned on me that they weren't like from a Christian religion. They weren't from an Orthodox religion. As they began to speak, I realized that they were Islamic, and that's the sense I got in my dream. Anyway, they started asking me these questions, these very personal questions. How long do I live in the house? Where do I work? Where do I go to church? They were asking all these personal questions, and I wasn't answering them. I was just looking at them. And the tall guy, he looked kind of looked kind of ornery. The tall guy, he looked kind of like he was the leader, and the little guy was kind of his lackey. And I'm looking at them very puzzled, and who they are. Who are you, and why are you asking me these questions? And I did not answer the questions. I had my guard up. Here were two strangers, not very friendly looking, at my front door, and I said to them, "Where are you from?" And the tall guy said, "We're from Turkey." And I looked at him, and I pointed my finger and said, "Get out of here. I'm not answering any of your questions. Get out of here." And then they ran off. They scurried off. And I woke up. That was the end of the dream. And, I was kind of pondering it about some things. What does it mean? We all do that with dreams. And I had some basic ideas. I asked a friend of mine what they thought about the dream, and it was simple enough. And but here's the thing. Here's what got me. That was Saturday night. On Monday, I saw an article that was put out by Charisma News, and the title of the article was ISIS Kill List. And this article in Charisma News, that apparently there's a new kill list put out by ISIS. Now, they did that a few months back. There was a kill list. And I had said a few months back when the first kill list came out, I wonder if the authorities are letting people know that they're being named by ISIS. And then it wasn't San Bernardino. I don't remember if it was San Bernardino. I think it was the Orlando shooting happened right after that. And that Orlando shooting in the nightclub, they were forewarned about that. It's not being really spoken about a lot. But I kind of flippantly said, I hope the FBI is letting people know who's on that list. That was the old list. Now there's a new list out. And here's the deal with this one. ISIS kill list names 15,000 Christian Americans. That would be me. That would be you. I know we number in the millions. I understand that. But 15,000 Christians targeted for death. Now, folks, this isn't about fear-mongering or scare tactics. This is about looking at the history of a demonically inspired antichrist system that does what they say they're going to do. I'm not exactly sure when the West is ever going to figure it out that what ISIS says they're going to do, they turn around and do. But so now what they did is they went onto the internet and they went into church directories around the country, and the article doesn't tell you what churches, what areas, what names, obviously. I tell you, I'd like to get a knock on the door, not from two Islamic-looking guys from Turkey, and I think that means something else too, by the way. I'm going to go somewhere with that later on. But I'd like to get a knock on the door from the FBI saying, hey, listen, we found out your name's on this list, so take precautions, because that's what it's all about. The writer of Proverbs says the prudent sees danger and prepares. And, churches, my friends, I'm doing this as a public service announcement. I'm not doing this as a scare tactic, because this was in Charisma magazine. I did not see this on any of the mainstream news reports. Now, it might be out there on the mainstream news reports, but I didn't see it there. So how many people even know about this? But if you're a church leader, you need to start thinking churches had better start to really think about their security measures. Seriously. I know some churches have. Some churches are hiring armed security, outside police officers who work on the side as security. But churches, folks, we need to start thinking about these things. I've been speaking for months and months and months about being prepared for the things that are coming upon America, the things that are coming upon the world. And we need to be prepared spiritually, of course. Absolutely. Hey, I'm ready to go home. If the trumpet blows and the rapture comes, I'm out of here. Broadcast over. But we also need to prepare in the natural with practical things like armed security around churches, because here we have an antichrist system who's waging war against the saints, who's waging war against the Lamb, and we better believe them for what they say. And you know what? I know. I understand, because I've been around the church now for 35-odd years, 36 years. But I know there's all those quote-unquote super spiritual folk who are going to say, hey, brother, don't fear-monger, because don't you know the angel of the Lord encamps about those who fear him? And I absolutely believe that. I pray that. I've marched around my house blowing a shofar because I believe the angel of the Lord encamps about those who fear him. But David, who wrote that's one of my favorite psalms, by the way. David, who wrote that psalm. David, who wrote, the angel of the Lord encamps about all those who fear him. He also had some mighty men guarding him with swords and battle axes. Go and read about David's mighty men. That's a whole nother issue. But yeah, David, who wrote the angel of the Lord encamps about him, also had some big guys with swords and shields guarding him as well. My point is this, is prepare spiritually, prepare naturally. Be prepared. Because these people are being demonically inspired. And I'm going somewhere with all of this. I'm laying this all out as a foundation for where this broadcast and maybe even next week's broadcast is going to go, because I've got so much to cover. But there is so much news on ISIS. Just yesterday on Drudge, there were 3 different news sources talking about how Europe is being overrun with Muslim immigrants, migrants. Switzerland is in crisis or near crisis. Germany is in crisis. In fact, I have an article right here. I'm not going to read it. I'll just give you the headline from this. This is today in Breitbart. German Christians hide Bibles because of Muslim violence and threats. And the article goes on to say, I'll give you a synopsis. I read it earlier today. But the synopsis is simply this, that the hundreds of thousands of migrants that are coming in, that Angela Merkel is letting into Germany, which she's ready to get thrown out of office because of all of this. But the few Christians that are in there are saying that they're being persecuted. They're having death threats thrown in their face. They're having their Bibles ripped up and torn asunder. And this was an article in Breitbart. You could probably see it on the Drudge Report or on the internet. But the Christians in Germany are having to hide their Bibles now. And last week, I'm going to tie all this together as I move along. Last week, the Pope, after all of these attacks that are going on in Europe, do you realize, I've been saying this for weeks, Europe is on the precipice of complete meltdown. They're on the precipice. There is so much going on that we're really not paying attention to here in America. But things are really going down the tubes fast in Europe. They are being overrun by an Islamic invasion. And there's almost every week, if not every day, there's another Islamic attack by these quote-unquote lone wolves. But ISIS said a long time ago they were going to infiltrate the migrants. They were going to infiltrate the immigrants coming in with their soldiers. Last week, Pope Francis said it was wrong to identify Islam with terrorism, and that social injustice and idolatry of money were among the prime causes of terrorism. Really? Speaking aboard the plane taking him back to Rome after a 5-day trip to Poland, the Pope said, "I think it is not right to identify Islam with terrorism. It is not right, and it's not true." Wow. It's stunning. Now listen, I don't mean to sound uncharitable here. I really don't. But I can't help to reply to this. Are you ignorant? Or are you just pretending to be ignorant? Either way, it's dangerous. Or are you simply a coward? Are you just denying reality? Colonel Ralph Peters, I got an article by him I might read in the third block. But Colonel Ralph Peters, he's a guy that's on Fox News a lot. He writes a lot of columns, and this guy has got it right. I don't know if Colonel Ralph Peters is a Christian or not, but he's got it right. And he made a statement in this article that is so dead on. He said, if today's Western leaders, people like Angela Merkel of Germany and the Obama administration, and he said this right after, I think he said this right after the Pope made his comment, so he's referring to the Pope as well. This is a great line, if they possess one general trait, it's a genius for self-deception. Insisting that Islamist terror has nothing to do with Islam, or that Islam has no strategic impact, or that all human beings want freedom and democracy, amounts to declaring that up is down and black is white. Or as the Bible says, you exchange good for evil and evil for good. You exchange sweet for bitter and bitter for sweet, light for darkness and darkness for light. Moral cowardice, or ignorance, or a combination of both. But moral cowardice disguised as tolerance and sprinkled with a sense of the denial of reality. My friends, that equals deception and delusion leading to destruction. Right after the Pope came out with those remarks, It's almost kind of funny. If it wasn't so seriously insane, it'd be almost funny. It was just a month ago or thereabouts, maybe 2 months ago, that after the Orlando attack, the guy Mateen who killed all those people in that club, and the Obama administration was saying, we don't know what the guy's motives were, and we don't know if he was, if he had mental problems. The mullahs, the imams over in ISIS were jumping up, pulling their hair out, going, no, it is Islam. No, it is ISIS. But no, we can't believe them. They don't know what they're talking about. It's insanity. And that happened a month ago. And now it seems like the same thing happened now. After the Pope makes his declaration that, it's not right to equate terrorism, Islam. ISIS this month in their magazine called Dabiq, yes, they do have a magazine. They put out a high quality magazine for all of their minions called Dabiq. But in their magazine, they purposely wrote an article to the Pope and to the West in toto. Here are 6 reasons we hate you. Now, I'm not going to go through them. I'm not going to read them. But ISIS put out an article explaining exactly why they hated us. And number 1 on the list was because we weren't Muslim. And by the way, out of the 6 reasons that ISIS hates the West, not one of them was what the Pope said. I mean, I can imagine these guys, I don't want to put like a happy spin on this, but it's kind of funny. ISIS is getting frustrated that the West doesn't believe them. And we're thinking, well, if we just ignore them, they'll go away. Or if we just soft pedal it, or just say that, it's not about Islam, it's not about Muslims, they won't attack us anymore. And they're doing just the opposite to, kind of like get us to the point of waking up. Although, that's not going to happen. Europe is being overrun by millions of Muslims, with ISIS infiltrating the refugees. And in a direct refute to the Pope's statement, they put out that article in Dabiq. It's all moving along, my friends. It's moving forward, my friends. It's all coming together. The beast spoken of in Daniel. The beast spoken of in Revelation. The beast that rises up out of the sea, and the beast that rises up out of the earth. It's coming together. The destruction of Rome is coming. I couldn't help after reading the article and the Pope's statements and how ludicrous they were. But not only ludicrous, dangerous. Because as I said a moment ago, when you deny reality, you set yourself up for delusion and destruction. And that's exactly what the Bible tells us is going to happen to Rome, to the Vatican. You see, the European Union, a few months back, they signed a new agreement with Turkey because Turkey was allowing all these refugees to come through into Europe. Erdogan is allowing all these migrants to pass through Turkey. I'm going to get into that later on because it's all tying together. But the European Union drafted a plan with Turkey to reduce the influx coming out of Turkey. What's happened now is that they've been coming in boats into Italy. So in some ways, the European Union's plan to send new refugees from Greece back to Turkey has helped. But Italy is now being inundated with refugees. Italy's being inundated with refugees more than ever before. And Rome is at the center of it all. And as I said a moment ago, with Europe's leaders in mass delusion, and with the Pope echoing and not echoing the delusion and affirming the delusion, I have a serious question here. How soon will it be before we see Revelation 17 come to pass? In Revelation 17, where it talks about the woman, the mother of harlots, it speaks of that city on 7 hills. It speaks of Rome. Every Bible scholar forever has said that was Rome, and it's perfectly fitting. But here's the thing. In Revelation 17, the woman rides upon a scarlet beast. Here's how I see that. the woman Rome rides upon a scarlet beast, the Caliphate kingdom of the Antichrist that's rising up. In Revelation 17, 15, 16, it says this. It says, then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. That's the influence of that harlot system. The influence of that harlot system who has its adherents all over the earth. Peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. And then the angel says to John, and the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot. Islam hates Christianity, and Rome to them, understand from their perspective, Rome to them is the mother of Christianity. Or as the Bible might say it. Well, no, I don't want to say that. That would be misinterpreted. But she certainly is the mother of harlots. The 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, and they will make her desolate and naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. My friends, the destruction of Rome, the destruction of the Vatican is in the scripture. And it wasn't only a year or two ago that ISIS said that their dream was to attack Rome and to raise the flag of ISIS on the Vatican. We might laugh at that. We may think they're crazy, but they don't think they're crazy. And they believe what they say, and they are going to attempt to do what they say. Do you understand where I'm going with this? We might say they don't have the means, they don't have the ability, it's NATO, it's Europe. But if you are denying reality, if you are denying what's going on right in front of your face, you're setting yourself up for destruction. The 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. The day is coming. I don't know when. I'm not saying this is happening next week. But the scripture makes it clear that the beast will destroy Babylon, the mother of harlots. Revelation 17:17 says this, for God has put it in their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind. Oh boy, there's so much I could say here with this. Oh, yes. God has put it into the hearts of the kingdom of the beast. Oh, don't you know that God can use anybody, brother? You never stop to ask what he's using them for, do you? God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind. What is the one mind of the kingdom of the beast? Well, if you understand it as I'm understanding it now, after years and years and years and years and years of study, there is one mind of the caliphate, one mind to destroy every religion and replace it with Islam, to create a worldwide caliphate and to destroy Israel. That is the one mind of the kingdom of the beast. For God has put it in their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that whom you saw is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. That's how we know it's Rome, because that was right there in real time. The angel telling John that the woman you saw in this vision is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. At that time, it was Rome. In the book of Daniel, I'm going to take a break in a moment, but I want to lay out my next block with this and show you about what's happening with the scarlet beast, who the scarlet beast is that the woman is riding on. Yes, you see, the woman, the harlot church, thinks it can ride the beast, thinks it can ride the Islamic Caliphate, thinks that we could serve the same God. It's a lie. It's a delusion. And in Daniel speaking to the angel, in Daniel 7, he had a vision of 4 beasts. And in Daniel 7:19, he says, then I wished to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron, its nails of bronze. It devoured, it broke in pieces, it trampled the residue, the former empires, with its feet. And the 10 horns, I want to know the truth about the 10 horns that were on its head. And the other horn, which came up, before which 3 fell. Namely, that horn which had eyes and a mouth, which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. Daniel said, I want to know the truth about this beast. There's something different about this beast. This is not like any other world empire ever before. And out of this empire rises up the Antichrist. I'll be back with more after this. Stick around. Michael Card. The Lamb is a lion who's roaring with rage at the empty religion that's filling their days. I am so glad that I belong to the Lamb. I am so hopeful when I see him crack the sky and come back as the Lion of Judah. Speaking of coming back, welcome back. Andy White here. You are listening to Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7 and 93.3 Napeague, WEGQ 91.7 in Quag. Folks, you need to listen to me on this. I got to speak to your heart about some things here, because it promotes the interests of Satan to keep both the church and the world in utter confusion and ignorance regarding the coming rise of the kingdom of the beast. But it's right on our doorstep. All the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. But there can be no doubt that Satan is the one who is responsible for the almost complete confusion and misdirection surrounding this issue. There's a lot of misdirection. We've been told a lot of things regarding eschatology that just simply aren't true. And I understand that because it says in the book of Daniel that in the last days they'll have a greater understanding. This isn't meant to impugn anybody. This isn't meant to say people were purposefully saying things that weren't true. But we need to follow the truth. And things I believed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I've changed my views on because of the light. We can't allow ourselves to get anchored into some doctrinal position and say that's it, because that's not true. God gives us more insight as we seek him out, to grow in the knowledge and the understanding of the Lord. And now you got to, and I'm going to appeal to you to hear me out on this, to please listen to me on this one, because we need to throw away our old ideas about a revived Roman Empire and a European model of an Antichrist kingdom. We're looking in the wrong place. And if we look in the wrong place, we're going to miss it. That European model has been an error. And we must throw that error in Bible eschatology into the trash bin of wrong and failed theories. The European model was built upon speculative theories and poor biblical exegesis. And to hold on to that false model is a complete misdirection of our attention and focus. It's like the Pope telling us, oh, Islam is a religion of peace, has nothing to do with terrorism. It's a misdirection. It's a denial of reality. And in the same idea, with us focusing on, the European Union, and we've been told for years that Brussels, because they named the building there the Beast. I don't know who named it that, but I think Christians did, because the European Union coming together, that was the revived Roman Empire. It's misdirection. It doesn't comport with proper biblical exegesis. It doesn't comport with history. And it certainly doesn't fit what we can actually see taking place on the ground right in front of us, plain as day. The Bible is an Israel Judeo-centric book. It's written from a Mid-Eastern perspective, not a Western world one. That's been such a struggle with the church, especially in America. We think all these prophecies have to fill some kind of an American idea. And it doesn't. Daniel was in Babylon when he received his visions of the beast, when he interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. He was in Babylon. Ezekiel was in Babylon when he was given his visions of Gog and Magog. When considering the Israel centricity of biblical prophecy, what would seem to be more relevant to Israel and God's prophetic plan? Europe or the Islamic world? Remember, the beast comes together, they have one mind. What is the one mind of the Islamic world? It is the destruction of Israel. Europe is not seeking the destruction of Israel, my friends. There may be a lot of anti-Semitism in Israel, but a lot of that can actually be rooted and traced back to Islamic theology, to Aryan doctrine. When Hitler rose up, I'm going to go down the bunny trail. When Hitler rose up and persecuted the Jews and to declare the master race, the Aryan race, he became friendly with the Shah of Iran and bought into Islamic Jewish hating ideas. By the way, the Aryan race, the Aryan doctrine, the word Aryan is Farsi for Iran. Do we forget that? It used to be called Persia. The reason they changed the name from Persia to Iran was when they got friendly with Hitler back in the 30s. These things are connected. And we've been barking up the wrong tree. Too many of us, and so many still are, and I understand why. We've been indoctrinated with this European model. We've been indoctrinated with this Europe is the beast and Russia is God, and it's a false model. The nation of Israel is surrounded, just like it was for almost 1,500 years of the Islamic Caliphate. After Muhammad began his religion and his successor became the first caliph, I'm not sure if Muhammad is considered a caliph, but the first successor became a caliph. The Islamic Caliphate grew from 623. It didn't end until 1923. The Ottoman Empire, controlled by the Turks, lasted for 500 years. In Daniel chapter 2, man, am I running out of time? So I knew this was going to happen. In Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. We know the story. And Daniel comes and interprets the dream. And he saw a giant statue. Its head was fine gold. Its breast was arms and silver. Its belly, its thighs were brass. Its legs were iron. And its feet were part iron and part clay. Where in the days of the feet, the part iron and the part clay? It's been common to point this towards, as I've said, and we all know it, it's been common to point this towards a Roman Empire, revived Roman Empire, that European model. But that is historically faulty, because he says that kingdom, that fourth kingdom would be different. That fourth kingdom would completely annihilate all the other kingdoms. The Roman Empire never did that. As Joel Richardson points out in his book, Mideast Beast, you need to get that book, my friends. You need to get Joel Richardson's book, Mideast Beast. But he says this: the first problem with the Roman identification of the fourth kingdom is that the Roman Empire does not meet the specific criteria of Daniel 2:40. And it doesn't. He's right. The verse speaking of the nature of the rise of the fourth kingdom says that when it emerged, it would crush all three of the other kingdoms. It says in Daniel 2:40, the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. In Daniel 7 that I quoted before, speaking of the same empire, we find a similar description. He said, as for the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the other kingdoms, and it shall devour the whole earth, and trample it down, and break it to pieces. The three kingdoms that would be trampled and crushed were the ones that preceded the fourth kingdom. And as we already know from history, they were Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire, and Greece. But the text is clear that the fourth kingdom would crush or conquer all three of these empires. The three empires never coexisted. And we need to understand what crush all the others meant. The Islamic Caliphate, in contrast to the Roman Empire. And you got to understand something too, by the way, and I'm kind of rushing along because I'm looking at the clock. Here's the deal with this. Rome never went further east than Palestine. They named it Palestine, the Romans did. Rome never moved into Babylon. Rome never conquered Baghdad, Babylon. Rome never conquered Persia. They never went that far east. The Fourth Empire said it was to consume everything, but the Islamic Caliphate did. The Islamic Caliphate consumed the entire Mideast, all across northern Africa, all the way over to Greece. We don't learn in our Western history in school, we don't learn much about the Ottoman Empire. So it's not that much in our thinking. But the Ottoman Empire, the Caliphate, lasted and was greater than the Roman Empire ever was. And that's not something we focus on. We've become so westernized in our theology. And it's been misdirection. Understand what Islam does. Islam is not just a theological system. The Caliphate is not just about a religion. As we see in the world around us, it's a complete structure of a religious system, an economic system, a socio-economic system. Islam is a complete and totalitarian ideology. Even when you look at the Roman Empire, they didn't crush and destroy Greece. They took on the elements of Greece. In the Roman Empire, Greek was the main language. The Roman Empire historically does not fit Daniel 2:40. And we've got to take our eyes off of that model and understand what's going on when you look right in front of us. Daniel 2:41-43 talks about the toes. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I'm going to read the scripture right now. Whereas you saw the feet and the toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Do you realize that is exactly shows us what Islam is like? There are two major facets of Islam, Sunni and Shia. They have a divided kingdom. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it. That's Islam as a whole. And just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another. Interesting verse there. They will mingle with the seed of men, but they won't adhere to one another. The Shia and the Sunnis are constantly at war, constantly fighting. The Arab tribes are constantly fighting. The Arab tribes. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, just as iron does not mix with clay. 3 times in this verse, the word mixed or mingle and mix is used. Mixed, mingle, and mix. It's an Aramaic word. You know what that word is? Arev, pronounced Aramaic. The transliteration is Arab. In the Aramaic world, in the Hebrew world, the word for mixed is simply Arab. In the Middle East, the Arabs were viewed as a mixed desert people. So here we have an interesting pointer, if you will, a compass, telling us that this kingdom is going to be made up of that which is of 2 elements called Arabs in the original language. I'll be back with more after this. The fusion of heart, mind, and soul. This is Open Up the Doors with Andy White here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7 and 93.3 in Napeague, WEGQ 91.7 in Quad. Thanks for hanging out with me on this Thursday afternoon for Open Up the Doors. I knew this was going to happen. I just have so much stuff here, and to get into a deep Bible study with some of this that really needs. I'm almost giving it an injustice. But I want to whet your appetite. I want to tell you, go and study Daniel 2. Go and study Daniel 7. And understand what's going on, what's really going on in the world around us, and what fits the biblical pattern as well as the historical record. You know, Daniel talks about the kingdom being divided. He says there in Daniel 2:41, you know, that you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay, partly of iron. Those things don't mix, and it's that divided sense. of those two things, those two elements of the kingdom, that is a perfect term to describe the Islamic community. Shortly after, a lot of people don't understand the difference, or why there is a difference, or what is a difference between Sunni and Shia. In a nutshell, to abbreviate it right down to brass tacks, shortly after Muhammad died, a division broke out between the Shia, which is a minority sect. There's only about 14% of Muslims are Shia. But they felt that the successorship belonged to Muhammad's relatives. And the Sunnis, who are the majority sect, they're about 86%. 86% of Muslims are Sunni. But they felt that the successorship to Muhammad belonged to his disciples, his companions. So that's a split. Who was to really become the caliph? That's a split for the most part. That's the clay and the iron mixed together. And they're going to rise up. The 10 toes become 10 horns. And I'm going somewhere with all of this. Because something I've been saying from the very beginning, ever since ISIS first came on the scene a few years back, was I believed, right from the beginning, that Erdogan, who's the president, soon to become emperor, the way things are going there in Turkey, but I believe from the very beginning that Erdogan, in an underhanded way, was always using ISIS for his own nefarious reasons. He's using ISIS to do his dirty work. I've said that from the very beginning. ISIS, and they've had a common enemy. ISIS and Turkey cooperate together on the ground in northern Syria and Iraq there on the basis that they have a common enemy to destroy. They both hate the Kurds. Erdogan hates the Kurds because he wants their territory. ISIS hates the Kurds because they're quote-unquote moderate Muslims. The Kurds are Muslims. So why would ISIS hate them? Because they're nominal Muslims. They're moderate Muslims, to use the world's word, the world's term. They're not true Muslims. And it's funny what Daniel says. He says, though they will mingle, the people of this kingdom will mingle with the seed of men, but they won't adhere to one another. They'll fight with one another, which is actually part of the going all the way back to Genesis, when Ishmael, God said that they were going to be, they were going to be warring all the time. But this ragtag caliphate, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, who nobody knows what's going on with him. He hasn't been seen for a while. He supposedly was killed last June, but it's never been confirmed. Be interesting to see if he pops up with a head wound. Just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. But I mentioned Ralph Peters a moment ago, and this guy gets it. He's got this article that he put out last week. Turkey and Erdogan. Here comes the real caliphate. Where ISIS was trying to establish a caliphate, but they're losing ground now on the ground. But they're infiltrating the seed of men. They are mingling with the seed of men. They're overrunning, I should say, into Europe. And in this great article by Ralph Peters, he says, over the past few years, many Americans heard the term caliphate for the first time, as ISIS declared the territory it seized from Iraq and Syria was the caliphate reborn. You see, I love his language here. Too much of the church is looking for a reborn Roman Empire and looking at Europe. You're looking in the wrong direction. They are trying to rebirth the caliphate. And that is what's happening. That is exactly what's happening on the ground. To us, Ralph Peters writes, caliphate appeared to be just another name for a vast torture chamber. But for hundreds of millions of Muslims, many of whom have nothing to do with ISIS, the caliphate is associated with a lost and much romanticized golden age when the caliph, who was also the Turkish sultan, claimed spiritual dominion over all Muslims. Erdogan wants to be that caliph. Erdogan wants to revitalize the Ottoman Empire. And Ralph Peters has it really dead on right. I'm going to post this article on the Open Up the Doors Facebook page for you guys to read it, because I'm running out of time. I only got a few minutes left. But just this past Tuesday, Erdogan went to Moscow to meet with Putin to mend the fences. And Israel, according to a report put out by the Debka file, Israel is worried that while turning his back on the United States and NATO, which is something I've been predicting for years, Erdogan will go all the way to bond with Russia, to which Iran is also attached as a partner. Here's the key. Something I forgot to mention. How are you going to get the clay? How are you going to get the clay and the iron to mix together? How are you going to get the Sunnis and the Shia to come together to form this alliance? They will come together. You read it in Ezekiel 38. The Magog Confederacy is Turkey and Iran. Turkey is Sunni, Iran is Shia. How does that come together? Well, God puts it in their hearts to have one mind. They have one mind. Now, God's using it for his purposes, of course. But they have one mind. Iran, number one, is in the minority by a lot. But they have one mind. They both want a caliphate, and they both want to destroy Israel. And this past Tuesday, Erdogan met with Putin. And according to this news report, it says here that Erdogan has scheduled a trip to Tehran and a meeting with President Hassan Rouhani a few days after his talks with Putin, which means he might be there right now, as I speak. I don't know what Erdogan's schedule is, but it's in a few days. The Turkish president's latest moves look like spawning another new Middle East bloc that would consist of Turkey, Russia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and indirectly the Lebanese Hezbollah terrorist group. Exactly what the Bible predicted thousands of years ago. Precisely what I've been predicting, only because I'm not a prophet, but I read my Bible. And I've been saying for years, Turkey and Iran will come together. Turkey will leave NATO. Erdogan is getting all of his ducks in order, my friends. He's getting all of his ducks in order in preparation of an invasion or a thrust into Syria and the Kurdish area of northern Iraq. In June, the airport in Istanbul was attacked, and they blamed it on ISIS. I often said, I wonder if ISIS really did that, or he was just using it as an excuse to go in to northern Iraq. In July, there was the failed coup attempt. Some believe that Erdogan actually staged the thing to consolidate his power. Wouldn't be too far-fetched, because that's how these dictators and how these megalomaniacs work. But either way, Erdogan is looking for his excuse for an incursion into Syria and northern Iraq, which is the ISIS-held area. And ISIS has done all the work for Erdogan. And if al-Baghdadi has been killed, which has been unconfirmed, there is that power vacuum in that area. Toes of clay and iron, they don't mix, but they want the same thing. They share common interests: an Islamic Caliphate and the destruction of Israel. And Iran will soon be coming into an alliance with Turkey. Mark my words. Look for it to happen in the not-too-distant future. And I gotta go. I got so much more here. I'm going to have to probably revisit this next week. But thanks for being here with me today, folks. I love you. I appreciate you. Visit me on the Open Up the Doors Facebook page, and have a great weekend, everybody.